Hi green lovers! In today's episode I want to share with you a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to do is, today is the day guys, I am going to be uppotting my single seed challenge plant. And the second part of the video I'm going to show you just some general tomato maintenance tips, pruning, that kind of thing. But here is Barry's Crazy Cherry. I planted it on February 11th, 2020, I think. So the story behind the single seed challenge is that Scott Head from Black Gumbo started this challenge a few months ago, and the idea is to grow a seed from seed form all the way through adulthood, its entire life cycle, and then you record your journey along the way. So I chose this seed, Barry's Crazy Cherry, and for those of you that have been following me, I've had a few interesting episodes along the way, and that just keeps going, it feels like. The first thing was, I confessed to you guys that I had also planted a second seed just in case the first one didn't come up. And guess what? Both seeds came up. So there was this one, which is the original, and then there's what I'm calling the cheat plant. And then, in addition to that, I also had a volunteer plant that I did not plant that came up, and I later on determined that it was a hollyhock, and I call it my stowaway plant. So I'm going to take you guys through the journey of all these three plants. So I've got 3 single seed challenges. What I'm going to be doing with the Barry's Crazy Cherry is I'm going to be babying it basically. I am going to be planting it in a pot just like Scott did in his single seed challenge, and I'm going to be placing it in what I believe are perfect growing conditions, and I'm going to just be watching it like a hawk. I have been doing it so far for this plant, and I will tell you it's not been working out so good for me. So the biggest problem that I've had so far is aphids. This thing was literally covered with aphids at one point, and I had to pick them off one by one, spray neem oil, what have you. The leaves at the bottom started curling. I thought the plant was gonna die, but it came back to life. The aphids are all gone. I still have a curling leaf here that I'm gonna break off, but I think in general the Barry's Crazy Cherry plant tends to have leaves that like to curl. So the cheat plant, on the other hand, has been doing awesome. No problems at all, no aphids, no nothing. And I haven't even pinched off the bottom leaves. I'm going to do that now. And what I'm going to do with this little cheat plant is I am going to plant it in the ground, versus this one I'm going to plant it in a pot. And we'll see how they do. My guess, cheat plant's going to do better. If anything, if there's anything that I've learned from it so far. So all I'm going to do here is I'm gonna plant it here, so I'm gonna loosen it up, take it out, and yeah, so it's not root bound or anything, as you can see, so it's doing okay. I'm gonna make a hole for it. Now this is rich soil. I've put all kinds of great fertilizer, etc. in it, and I'm also gonna put a nice full pot of earthworm castings. This is full of earthworms, and I'm hoping that they will introduce the necessary soil life. See, as you can see, there are earthworms. Look at that. Yeah, I am very squeamish, so me touching earthworms, it's a lot of progress for me from when I started building that worm farm. But yeah, my wonderful little earthworms are gonna live here along with my Barry's Crazy Cherry. I'm gonna do what I usually do, which is plant it fairly deep, and ta-da, we're done. I'm just gonna water this thing in, as my mother calls it, water of life, or uiratani in my language. And that should make the roots adhere nicely to the soil around it, and it's good to go. Here is my other Barry's Crazy Cherry tomato. It's the biggest of all the tomatoes. I actually planted it in the ground last week, so it's been growing here, and come closer and see. It's actually started developing some flowers, so that's pretty exciting. I'm going to show you how I take care of this and some of the other tomato plants I've got going on here. Now the Barry's Crazy Cherry, as I mentioned before, is an indeterminate variety, which means it's going to grow and grow and grow and produce fruit all the way through the end of the growing season when the first frost hits. There are some other varieties called determinate varieties which will produce a bunch of fruit and then stop growing. Now for the indeterminate varieties, what I like to do is I like to prune them and keep them to as much as possible a single stem. So as an example, if you look over here, these plants have been growing here since March 19th, and some of them are developing flowers. I have been maintaining these so they're not looking terribly bad, but let me show you this example. Here's a good one. See, as you can see, the leaves at the bottom, they're kind of flowing over. They're going to start touching the ground. They're going to develop disease. And so I like to keep a good 6 inches at least trimmed and free of any leaves. And if you come a little bit closer, you'll be able to see in the armpit here of this branch, this thing. It's called a sucker. And if you break this off, which I'm going to do, it will actually develop into an entire new plant. But I don't keep any suckers on because I like to keep my plants pretty clean and single stemmed. So I'm going to remove all of these branches. I'm going to take that one off too. And what I will go ahead and do is, as this grows up a little bit more, I will just pile up the soil around it so it starts growing more roots. Push it down a little bit like that, and then that's it. That's the maintenance that I need to do. I also do things like this. I just pinch off the tips of the foliage so they don't touch the ground. So that's it, guys. I come and do this maybe once a week or so. Just make sure my tomato plants are looking clean, free of disease, and yes, I do fertilize them once a week. Give them a lot of good nitrogen-rich fertilizer because this bed is a new bed, and I don't want the plants competing with any organic matter that is decomposing in the soil. So I give it fertilizer regularly. Until the soil is established, you want to give it some extra fertilizer. Alright guys, so that is my tomato maintenance video and my single seed challenge update for the weekend of April 19th, 2020. Until next time, live green and love your greens.